My name is Veronica Kasperzak-Bratcher, and I am the clinical director at Wildflower Mountain Ranch and a licensed professional counselor.
And my name is Lacey Rasmussen, and I am a youth mentor at Wildflower Mountain Ranch and a certified neuro coach. All right, and today we're going to talk about reactive attachment disorder, RAD, and disorganized attachment, recognizing signs and providing supportive care. So, Veronica, RAD, why does it happen?
So, reactive attachment disorder is the clinical diagnosis of disorganized attachment.
Okay.
And so they are the same thing, except for one of them is the clinical diagnosis.
Yeah.
The most common reason that they happens, because it's a criteria, is that there is some sort of rupture, typically in the attachment process within the first 2 years of life. Now, there is a variety of different theories that can say that it can happen later in life, but most cases of reactive attachment disorder happen when there's challenges in the first 2 years of life, because that's when those essential parts of the brain are forming. This happens when there is abuse or neglect, or there can be you can get multiple changes in caregivers is one of the causes potentially, whether it be even if you're removed, but then you go live with grandma and then aunt and uncle, or then you're in foster care and you're going to go from one foster home to the next foster home to the next foster home. Even if they are with wonderfully amazing, supportive people, especially in that young age of life, you are seeking consistency. Because remember, we don't understand object permanence before the age of 2 by any means. So we don't know that grandma still loves us and she lives in another state, or that we're living over here. And so what that teaches us is that it can teach us that relationships are not reliable. And so the difference with an insecure attachment and a disorganized, or what commonly is referred to as reactive attachment disorder, is I will push away a relationship and I will actively avoid a relationship, not because I don't want one, because that's the most common myth, is that I'm avoiding a relationship because I don't want one. And sometimes, especially teenagers, will tell you outright they do not want to have a relationship. They don't need a mom. They don't need somebody looking out for them. But the challenge is they don't trust that a person is going to stick around long enough to be that person. And they don't want to be hurt by feeling vulnerable and attached and connected. And so it's easier from a reactive, that's where reactive comes from, to push that person away. And the way they typically push that person away is through obnoxious, unpleasant, super awful behaviors. Because if you never get close to them, then it won't hurt when you leave, is the theory that they're telling themselves. It's not true, because it hurts a reactive attachment disorder kid every time somebody leaves their life, even if they're prepped for it. It hurts every single time. But the way that their security system has devised in their brain is if I don't let you close to me, number one, it will hurt less if you leave me. But if you also go further back into the development perspective, it happens in children, it comes up again in adolescence, but it's the idea of what they call egocentrism, meaning the world revolves around them. Everything happens because I do it. The 3-year-old that's super excited because they're knocking over the block tower. I did that. I was in charge. We're learning cause and effect. Well, it happens again. And so the idea for kids with reactive attachment disorder and kids in general is that if I have significant pain and you're abusing me or neglecting me or you're leaving me often, it's because there's something wrong with me. And so especially when we're talking about kids with reactive attachment disorder, not only are they not wanting you to get super close to them, so they have all these beautiful behaviors to keep you far away because they're afraid that you're going to leave them, but there's also a genuine fear, even for the people that are super committed, that I don't really trust that you'd really be committed to me, because if you found out who I really was and all these little inner yucky things that I feel about myself, that you won't love me either. And so as much as that reassurance can come in, that's where a lot of therapy, huge amounts of consistency, and sometimes a lot of just growth and development are needed, because they need not only reassurance from you, but they need to develop and get to a point where they have reassurance from themselves that they're a worthwhile, loved enough person, that even if mom or dad get mad at them, or a boyfriend or a girlfriend breaks up with them, that they're still a pretty amazing person, because that's a root challenge for a person with an attachment disorder.
And you already talked about it, but are there any other ways we can support a child struggling with it rather than consistency?
Consistency is the first hugest one, because they are going to test you and 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 test you, because in their mind, everybody else is left and they can outlast you. Because here's the beautiful thing: when we talk about kids, they don't have to do a fraction of the things the adults are doing. They don't have to go to work or pay the mortgage or figure out who's going to the dentist next or maintain other adult relationships. And so from an energy perspective, a kid with a reactive attachment disorder has a whole lot more time and energy and can outlast you, especially in their mind. And so when you're just consistently showing up and consistently showing up and consistently showing up and consistently showing up and reassuring them, now that doesn't mean not having rules and boundaries, because those are critical, but getting them into therapy or finding something that they can. I believe that therapy can be good for most kids. However, the alternative, if you have a kid that may not be responding to therapy, or there's some challenges going on or not able to access in your area, finding something they can feel good at increases their confidence within themselves, because competence, meaning good enough at something, increases confidence. So this is where you have individuals that may have had a really rough life, but suddenly they become really amazing in sports, or really amazing at a musical instrument, or really amazing at learning multiple languages, or doing really well in school. Because then they're like, if I can be good enough at this action or activity, then maybe I can be good enough as a person, and I can feel good enough about myself. And I'm getting these positive accolades and traits because I am good enough, not just at soccer, but also at being a human.
So for those parents out there that are struggling with this and they're like, I've been consistent, it's just things aren't working. Is there any, like, can you tell them that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that we can cure it, or can we?
Cure is a complicated word, because cure implies that there is a biological fix and we can somehow, give him a medication or antibiotic to fix it. So cure isn't necessarily the word that we're looking for. And that's often where a lot of parents can be really frustrated and can get discouraged with therapies. They're going, well, why don't you fix my kid? Why can't you cure this element? And the issue is not about fixing or curing it. It's about strengthening the muscle in the brain and in those emotional elements so that it gets stronger. It doesn't mean that we are ever going to erase the things that caused that challenge. They're going to remember, to the best of their time, there are times when they didn't feel good, or they were treated poorly, or they didn't have enough food to eat, or they were around these really scary environments. And when people think of cure or fix, oftentimes they get confused in their mind and they think that I'm erasing the past. And that's not how that works. Our brain was never meant to do that, because if we erase the past, then our brain says, well, if I forget it, then I'm at risk and I won't be able to handle it, or won't remember how to get through it, which are really all the behaviors they're showing us that we don't love. And so we're never going to erase the past, but we can strengthen the muscle and build skills that help them be their predominant skill, so that they can use those social skills and communication skills and attachment skills. Does it mean they may be a little slower to trust? Possibly. Does it mean that they'll never trust or never be in a healthy relationship? Absolutely not.
All right. Thank you so much for all that information, Veronica.